Off 6 consecutive touchdowns after falling behind 10-3, going to take over at their own 13-yard line. And we are joined in the booth by, I don't know whether it's alumni, you get the quarterback weekend, your alumni weekend, you're a proud father, you're a fan, you're the athletic director, Oliver Luck, you're all those things. It's a busy weekend for you, a lot of hats.
It has been. It has been a really busy weekend. We've had all these quarterbacks come back. We've honored Don Nealon, as you guys know very well, and raised a bunch of money to endow a couple of scholarships in Don's name. Don's so fired up because his grandson's doing well, catching a touchdown pass. So it's been a great weekend.
Sort of all in the family. He's got his grandson. Obviously, you have your son playing terrific football as well.
Well, thank you. They're playing tonight against UCLA, 10:30 East Coast time.
There's Garrison trying that left side, and it's going to be a short gain this time. He's going to get out to the 22, a yard short. Bowling Green thinks they have it, but they do not, as Charlie Walker makes the stop for the Falcons.
Now, Oliver, can you explain the whole thing with the quarterbacks this weekend? I think it was a great event. A lot of fans seem to like it. How did that come about?
Well, I tell you, it came from a buddy of mine that I played with at the Oilers, Gifford Nielsen, the great BYU quarterback. When they wanted to honor Lavelle Edwards at BYU, they brought back all of their All-American quarterbacks, and Jim McMahon and Ty Detmer and Steve Young and all these players. And I kind of liked that idea. They raised a bunch of money for some scholarships for Coach Edwards, and we basically took the idea and said we're going to roll it out here because we've had, as I think both of you would admit, some pretty good quarterbacks over the years when you consider, Jeff Hostetler and Mark Bolger and Major Harris and Pat White. Probably the best of us all was Pat White. So all these guys came back. We raised a bunch of money, and it was just a fun event.
Sean Alston picks up the first down. There was that guy taken in the second round by the Oilers. Oh, Oliver Luck, yeah. He was a pretty nice player as well. What do you look back when you think about, you've got the AD hat on now, but when you think back at your college career.
I wished I couldn't play an offense like this. That's what I think about. Don would allow us to throw the ball 15, 20 times a game, right? So Dana, as you guys know, likes to put the ball up a lot. So we're all talking about how much we'd like to be a quarterback in this era as opposed to back in the 70s or 80s.
Now, when you took over as AD, is that one of the things you wanted to focus on, is bringing a lot of the former players back with program, just like the quarterback weekend? And I've been down here a few times with alumni. We've seen like you guys are doing a lot more with the former players.
Yeah, I think the most important asset that any major college football program has is its alumni, its former players, because they can help you recruit. They built the program. Certainly in our case, the guys built this program. So we're really looking to do as many things as we can to bring as many guys back and just have them engaged, because they're really sort of the stakeholders for any major college football program.
Another 9-yard run here by Dustin Garrison, continuing to pile up the yardage, closing in on some historical markers in West Virginia history. You mentioned already has the first half rushing record for West Virginia, and a first down pitch out into the flat is Willie Millhouse on the reception there.
Yeah, all of our offensive records are completely under assault with Dana Holgorsen. I told the guys upstairs, including Bolger, who holds most of the packs, I said, Mark, forget about it. You're going to be down the list after Gino gets done, and the longer Dana coaches here, the more records we'll see get broken by all the offensive players.
Now, how do you think Dana's doing in his first year as the head coach?
I think he's doing well. I think he's doing pretty well. I think he's one of the smartest coaches offensively. Of course, he had the good sense of keeping Jeff Castile on the defensive side of the ball. Those guys are doing a very good job. We've got some things that we need to improve on. We don't have much depth, and that's true of a lot of college. In fact, that's probably true of our programs over the years. We've never had real depth. So I'd give him right now an A for the work he's been doing.
Now, you had the big game with LSU last weekend, and you got to see your program against one of the better programs in the country, and you talked about the depth. Is that probably where the difference is in a big game like that last week?
I think it is. You look at a school like LSU, and they can roll in an entire 7-man front. They can keep them fresh. They got big guys across the board. They just have more depth than we do. I think our first team players can hang with most of the SEC schools or Big 12 schools for that matter, but I think the difference really is depth.
Sean Alston, a nice run there. Dustin Garrison is checked back into the football game. And you mentioned the recruiting advantage that the alumni coming back, and the fans love to see those guys coming back. I would think just this style of play is a good recruiting tool as well. When kids go out and think, boy, this looks like it would be a fun offense to play in.
You know, I believe that the way kids grow up today, different than in our era. I mean, they want to see pinball football. They play the video games. They go online all the time. They compare their stats. So this, to me, is the wave of the future. And the ironic thing is, like when I watch my son play at Stanford, they have an eye set, 3 tight ends. You know, they shrink the field and still, you know, score a lot of points and win games. But I really do believe that this wide open spread, throw the ball 60 times a game, you know, gain 600-700 yards a game. I really do believe it's the future, and I think it makes it easier to recruit certainly skilled players, but I think linemen as well.
And it has to help to have a guy like Geno out there with Dana coming in and putting this new offense in a, you know, a veteran type of player that studies as hard as Geno does.
He's a good quarterback. He's very accurate. He's smart. He has a great pocket presence. Not a great athlete. You know, doesn't like to run. Doesn't have real quickness. But I think, you know, he's one of the best quarterbacks around as I watch him.
And this went out on the flat, and the late whistle signifies that it was not a lateral. Maybe for a moment you thought that might have been behind a backward passer to Dustin Garrison, but falls incomplete, and it's going to bring up a 4th down.
Now, Oliver, where do you see this program going? What things do you want to work on going forward here? You've been here for not a long time, but you've done some good things. Where do you see the things going?
Well, you know, I want to see our program be relevant at a national level. You know, we've always had a solid program, and you know doesn't mean we're not going to be playing football in the Big East in the near future. But I want us to be considered to be one of the top 10, top 15 programs around the country, year in, year out. Exciting to watch, good fan base. You know, that's I think our goal, because you know, we haven't won a national championship in football, and ultimately that's what we want to do. I think we're the winningest program in D1 football that hasn't won a national title. And I would argue that should be our primary goal. And easier said than done, of course, because there's some great programs out there. But I think with the coaching staff we have now, and with the legacy and the history here, we should be able to get make a good run at that goal.
Bittencourt with a 45-yard field goal, now 48-10. West Virginia. We're spending time with Oliver Luck, the athletic director at West Virginia University, who's been kind enough to join us. And you know, you talked about the Big East and moving forward, and right now, I mean, you know, the athletic director job always challenging. You have to be worried about fundraising and academic standards and all kinds of other things. And now you happen to be here when this seismic shift is happening in college athletics, and I'm sure that represents a huge challenge.
Well, I'll tell you, every athletic director who's not in one of the, you know, but not in the SEC or the ACC or the Big Ten or in the Pac-12, I think is really worried, you know, because there's lots of movement. There's a ton of moving parts. It's almost like a chess game. So we're all a little bit concerned. I think certainly those of us that are in the Big East are concerned. You know, we've had some very good Big East years with football programs. If you think back to when Rich Rodriguez was here and Bobby Petrino was at Louisville and Brian Kelly at Cincinnati, we had teams in the top 5, top 8, top 10. We've slipped a little bit, but I really firmly believe we can get back up there and be a conference every bit as good as the ACC or even the Pac-12 for that matter.
WVU Gates with the return out across the 30-yard line out to about the 31-yard line. What other factors go into that? What is behind, other than, you know, people talk about money, and it seems to be that the football programs are driving this. What other things does an athletic director have to consider, along with the president and the chancellor and others for the school? I mean, it goes beyond, I would think, just you know, what conference you're playing football in.
Well, I mean, I still think that there should be some regionality, if that's a word. You know, I mean, our natural rivals are Maryland and Virginia Tech and UVA and Pitt and Penn State. You know, they're bus trips, right? They're 2, 3, 4-hour bus trips. Our fans can go to those games. Their fans can come up here. And I think ultimately it's kind of a shame if you find yourselves having to take you know, a charter flight for every road game. It makes it difficult for fans to go. It makes it hard for parents to go watch their kids play. And as a parent of a college football player, I'm on a plane every other weekend going out to California. I'm not going to drive out there, but I think, you know, there should be some consideration given to regional relationships and regional rivalries.
Now, to me, West Virginia is strong enough to lead the charge for the Big East if it was to stay together. You know, great tradition, great fan support. Are there other teams that want to come in here and, you know, along with West Virginia, and lead this conference back to prominence?
I think there are. I mean, I think, you know, having the AQ status is hugely important. And, let's be honest, the reason TCU wants to be in this league so badly is that they think it's an easier path to the national championship than going through Norman, Oklahoma, or Austin, Texas, or Stillwater, Oklahoma, and playing some of their regional schools out there. So we've got some quality schools that are very interested in getting involved, including both Air Force and Navy. No secret there. And I think both those institutions are academically excellent, very important nationally, and also I think we'd all agree they played some pretty good football. In fact, I would trade Air Force or Navy for Syracuse any day of the week in terms of the quality of the football program. No disrespect, but that's just an observation. I think most folks would agree with and understand football.
Schultz back on a 3rd and long, going to complete to Kamar Jordan. So first downs have been hard to come by for the Falcons, but able to get that one out to the 46-yard line.
Now, you brought up the basketball part of it. What about the basketball in this whole shift with Pitt and Syracuse leaving a big part of the Big East basketball?
Yeah, I mean, Syracuse has a great program, as has Pitt. Jamie Dixon's a heck of a basketball coach. And a lot of people think that the ACC's decision to get Pitt and Syracuse is really all about basketball, that the ACC was sort of embarrassed at how strong the Big East had become in basketball. We lose 2 good basketball schools, no question about that. Although we'll still play Pitt, Okay. So as a WVU fan, I can tell you that we'll still play Pitt most likely in football every year and most likely in basketball every year. So we don't really lose them. Syracuse doesn't mean a lot to our fan base, as you know, John, from playing here. Nobody shows up to watch Syracuse because they've been down in football. Basketball, Syracuse has had a good program, and we'll miss that game every other year in the Coliseum.
And that's good news for I live just up the road, Oliver, in Pittsburgh, and so that's good news because the fans up there, this rivalry is one of the great rivalries in the country. People that maybe aren't from our neck of the woods here don't understand just how close these campuses are. That Pitt and West Virginia is a lot closer, for example, than Pitt and Penn State, driving-wise for the fans, and the rivalry has become a tremendous rivalry.
We've played over 100 times in football, and I've not had any discussions with the Pitt folks. I've kind of let them be, quite honestly, after all the activity. But my sense is that they'll be very interested in maintaining the football rivalry with us. When we bring 25,000 fans to Heinz Field, we fill it up. And Pitt is not filling up Heinz Field, on their own. So I think that game really, from a financial perspective, is pretty important to them.
3rd down. Schultz back to pass. Going to throw underneath to Hopgood, and Hopgood trying to race for the lead stick, and it looks like he might have enough for the 1st down.
Looked like Bruce Irvin had a good rush going and tried to counter inside and slipped, and the rain is having a little bit of effect on the pass rushers as well.
I'm sure, just to ask you about your son again, I'm sure a proud dad and trying to keep an eye on obviously what's going on here and a unique challenge, trying to keep up with what's going on there as well. And you must be extremely proud of what he's been able to do.
Well, they've got it's a great academic school out there. They've had a good football run, first with Jim Harbaugh. He turned the program around, and then with David Shaw, who replaced Coach Harbaugh. And, I'm just happy as a dad that he's doing well, that he's enjoying it, that he's doing well academically. He's on schedule to graduate, with a degree from the School of Engineering out there at Stanford. So it's a nice place.
Boy, talk about your workload. School of Engineering at Stanford, that's taking some doing, huh?
It's, they recruit nationally. They really do. One of the few schools, maybe besides the academies, that do that. And they're able to, kind of pick off the kids that really have, great GPA, SAT, you name it. They take some pretty rigorous academic course loads out there.
Oliver Luck, the athletic director at West Virginia, thank you very much for spending time with us, and good luck the rest of the season to both your program and, of course, your son as well.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.